Ever wonder why some agents just seem to have an endless supply of real estate referrals? Well, join me in this video where we'll talk about some of the secrets to creating an extraordinary customer experience to help you increase the number of referrals that you get in your business. Let's get into it. In order to continually get repeat and referral business from your past clients and even your sphere of influence, you need to do one really big thing. You need to create a 5-star customer experience. And you do this by creating personalized service for each person, having clear and consistent communication, and then of course, going above and beyond for your customer. When you do this, you create a great experience for them, and they are going to basically be a referral machine out there for you. So if that's what you're looking for a whole bunch of cheerleaders out in the marketplace that are always singing your praise, this is the video you don't want to miss. And you really need to stick around until the end because I've purposely backloaded some of the best tips right at the end of the video. Now, this video is going to be a full comprehensive list of things that I have done in my real estate career to help increase that personalized experience and, all of the other great things that come with customer service. So I'm just going to be kind of running through it and giving you guys the idea behind why I'm doing those individual things. Okay, let's go ahead and start jumping into some of these tips. These are in absolutely no particular order, but they are things that I've added into my business that really help bring in that repeat and referral business, starting with handwritten notes. Handwritten notes, handwritten cards are something that seems to be wildly overlooked in the real estate industry, and I'm not 100% sure why. They completely stand out from the pack. When was the last time you got a handwritten note? And I bet you probably still have it somewhere, whether it was a birthday card, an anniversary card, a Merry Christmas wish, something like that. A lot of us keep that. It's because it means something to us because we put time, effort, and energy into it, or the other person did. So don't be afraid to use handwritten notes inside of your business, whether this is contacting your sphere of influence and just giving them a handwritten note for events and things that happen in their life, a new dog that they got, their kid went to college, things like that, or whether it's a handwritten note for just saying, hey, thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer or Mr. and Mrs. Seller, for allowing me the opportunity to discuss with you what I can do for you. Thank you so much. Here's a handwritten note. It definitely stands out about the pack, so my suggestion is send this after a listing appointment and, of course, a buyer consultation to let them know that, hey, you're not only a professional, that you do what you say you're going to do and that you are good at what you do. You proved this through the presentation, but you also bring a very human aspect to the transaction and that you're going to be there for them to have their back on everything. When you provide a handwritten note, it shows them all of that with one simple gesture, and it only takes a couple of minutes. Custom gifts, or GIFs, depending on how you say it. These are a great personal touch throughout the transaction that you can add in. Now, before I get into this too far, I've got another video about all these Canva hacks and tricks, and there is a GIF creator inside of Canva that I go over on how to do this. It takes all of about 18 seconds from start to finish to create a GIF like this, so you'll have that. Go ahead and watch that video if you need the actual tactical way to use this, but here are some of the GIFs that I would use throughout the process. Number one, as soon as we went under contract, this is very easy. Get some pom-poms or something. I just went something like this, and I was like, congratulations, we're under contract. It seems corny, it seems lame, but when they see a great GIF or GIF with your face on it, congratulating them on something that they're doing, they feel like it's personalized and for them, and it really is. You can also do things for, let's say, the home inspection. Put on a hard hat and a hammer and go, hey, home inspection complete. And then do another one that goes, same thing, same hard hat, just holding the hammer down, just going, ooh. Like, okay, cool. That's where we need to negotiate some of the repairs that need to be made by the seller for our buyer clients. And you can use the same gifts for whenever the home inspection comes in for your sellers to say, okay, now we need to talk about what we're going to fix for the buyers, as that is part of the process. And you can get creative with the rest of the touch points inside of the transaction, but I keep them in a personalized folder right here on my cell phone so that I could easily access them and send them out. The next one is a big one for a lot of people that don't come from a customer service background. I surely didn't. I'm prior military. I used to fly airplanes all day. I didn't know what customer service meant. And that is the 3-day communication cycle. See, any of our customers, as soon as they do a presentation with us, whether it's a listing presentation or a buyer presentation, consultation, for me and all of my agents on the team, they go into a 3-day communication cycle. This 3 days is done inside of our CRM, and it is just a reminder to contact them every 3 days. Now, we are going to contact them more often when things are happening, but there will be no 3-day period where they don't hear from me. Basically, if we had something happen and 3 days go by and there's been no communication within those last 3 days from the time the last communication point was, we reach out to them. We do this in the CRM. It's built in. It's nice and easy. And then whenever we're clearing out our Lofty every single day, which is what our brokerage provides for us, then we know, hey, it keeps us in communication with these folks. And this is from the presentation, buyer or seller. Even if they're not making a decision within a week, we still have these touch points. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to touch them every 3 days, but I suggest that you do. In fact, in our presentations, we even tell them, hey, during this portion of the period, let's say for a buyer, hey, it's a 30 to 45 day window. There's about a 10 to 15 day window in the middle where there's not a whole lot going on our side because we've done all of the front stuff and preloaded it. And then now we're doing all the back end stuff, basically in private. And then we start going into all the closing stuff at the end. But during this 10 or 15 day period, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, there's not going to be a whole lot for me, but I am going to keep communication lines open by reaching out to you every 3 days. I'm not being weird. I just want to make sure those comm lines are open so that if you do have a question, you can reach out to us. See, and this happens with buyer and seller clients alike. They have a question, but they're keeping it at bay because they haven't heard from you in a while, and they're just kind of waiting till the next natural progression in the transaction for them to ask you those questions. So by reaching out to them every 3 days, even if it's just to say, hey, John, hey, Jerry, hey, whatever your name is, what's up? Just trying to check in on you. Everything's looking good on our end. How are you doing? That's all it takes for them to know that you have their back and open those comm lines up so that they can ask any questions that might come up and they don't fester and get worse over time. The next tip I have is tailoring the house that they are looking for. This is mainly for the buyers. When it comes to tailoring the house to the buyer's needs, that all is done during the buyer consultation process where we ask them a ton of questions. And this actually has multiple benefits. One is we know exactly what they're looking for, which is great. Two is we can push them away from different homes that don't match their criteria. If they say a 2-car garage is an absolute must, but there's a 1-car garage home that is just beautiful inside and they're itching to see it, I am going to attempt to get them to realize that this isn't the perfect home for them. I'm trying to get them the absolute best home possible. There's no reason we should be wasting our time looking at homes that aren't important to them, that don't match their criteria. So this helps them out by lowering the buyer fatigue that they have. The decision-making fatigue that happens when you see 20 homes is extremely high. And it also prevents you from seeing too many homes because in all reality, that's just spending a lot of time with your people that you don't necessarily need to. And as much as I love my buyers, don't get me wrong, I really do, and I want to do everything for them, I want to make sure that I'm doing the best for them, not just running around wasting gas and wasting time to show them as many homes as possible. My team averages about 4 showings per buyer client, and that's really all that's necessary. If you are consistently showing 10 to 15 homes, you're probably not doing enough homework on the front end. The next one's a really minor tip, but it is interesting to see and how quickly the bond happens and the rapport building happens as you're out doing showings or if you're selling a home whenever you're communicating with your seller, what have you. And that is finding ways to sneak in things that are important for their experience with whatever they are doing, buying or selling a home. With buyers, that's the best example I'm going to give. Like if I know that they've got 2 dogs, for instance, I'm going to find ways to sneak that into the conversation. Hey, look at this backyard. This will be great for the 2 pups, John and Leroy. John and Leroy are absolutely going to love it. If they love, entertaining people and having guests over, I'm going to use that to show them, hey, look at this backyard. Wouldn't this be great for having a nice little welcome to the neighborhood party or bringing all your friends over? Hey, look at this great additional room here. I know you guys said you wanted one of these for a game room. Wouldn't that be amazing to have your game room here? It's got this. You could put a little bar over here if you wanted to. Whatever, as long as it tailors the experience to them. Involving their children is always a really big thing. See, I'm a single guy and I don't really know a whole lot about the family dynamic, but what I have found out is making sure that the children, when they're old enough, are involved in the process is very, very helpful. For instance, we've got these great coloring books that we bring to listing appointments and buyer consultations so that if they do have small children that like to color, we give them some crayons and a coloring book. And it's just like this cool little coloring book about a bunch of bears and different houses that they're looking at and things like that. So it's real estate adjacent, but it's really just to kind of give them a better experience so that they're not bugging mom and dad and we can have a legit conversation. We also do things like children listing agreements. These are great. If you know that they've got small children, make sure that you ask the seller before if this is okay. But what we like to do when we get the thumbs up from them is we bring the children's listing agreement and we tailor it to them a little bit because there's some basic language in there, and it's just really easy to follow stuff. It's basically like, hey, if I clean my room before every showing, if I make sure that the dining room is cleaned up, if that happens to be their thing, if I get all of my homework done while we're doing this portion of selling the home, then whenever we go to sell the home and I get my new room at my new house, I'm going to go get ice cream, or I'm going to have a pizza party, or I'm going to get to have a sleepover where the real estate agent's going to pay for dinner or pay for snacks for them or what have you, but tailor it to their experience a little bit so that you can get them involved. When you get them involved, you get the parents more involved, and they see that human side of you that just makes them like you that much more. Closing gifts. This is something that almost everybody does, but I do know a lot of agents that don't. Listen, if you don't do closing gifts, spend $100, go to clientgiant.com and sign every one of your buyers or sellers up for this, and it's going to gift them 4 gifts every 3 months. So for a year, it's 4 gifts, $100, super easy. You won't have to worry about it at the closing table. You could say, hey, we've got some closing gifts coming. That is something we do on our team for all of our agents and all of their clients. But that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about a personalized closing gift. If you can personalize the experience for them, it makes it a whole heck of a lot better. One of the things we do is a thank you card that has a picture of their home on it. It is provided for us by our brokerage, LPT Realty. If you guys are curious about that, all of my information will pop up on the screen. You can call, text, email me, DM me, however you want to get a hold of me. I can talk to you about that. But they provide in a listing box for everything that has like 170 or so marketing pieces. And one of those is a bunch of thank you cards. We save 2 of them, one at the closing table, beautiful front picture of their home. Hey, thank you so much for selling with us, for sellers. And then another one for a year later. Now, this isn't necessarily a closing gift, but it is a nice added touch. The closing gift that we present with it is generally to them, to whatever they find important. If during the buyer consultation, somebody told me, hey, I want a house with a big yard because I want to get a dog, I haven't had a dog in a while and I just want another one. I just haven't found the right one yet. Awesome, cool. Then I'm going to give them some personalized dog gifts, a dog bowl, some leashes, things like that somebody that is looking for a dog might want. And this can go for a number of myriad of different things, but try to tailor the closing gift to them. Post-close check-ins. After the sale, make sure that you're checking in on them. We do 3 different touch points after the sale. We do one at 3 days post-close. We do one at 10 days post-close, and we do one at 21-day post-close. And we're just checking in on them. See, there's a statistic out there, NAR states that 91%, this is abysmal, by the way, 91% of real estate agents never contact their client after the closing, ever. Period. Ever. That's the end of the conversation. They don't contact them. So just 3 touches after will really help with that. And then after that, I prefer a cadence of once every 3 months just to check in on them. See, you're the professional with the home. You're the professional with the handyman, the AC people, the painters, the landscapers, and all of the great things that they might need. So I think it's your duty to reach out to them and make sure that they are covered with all of their housing needs. And they should start thinking of you as the go-to person for all of those things as well. Portfolio reviews. We do this once per year with every past client. On the day that you sell, 1 year later, minus 1 week, is when we reach out to say, hey, your anniversary is coming up. Let's set up your portfolio review. And during this portfolio review, we go over what their home is worth. This isn't just sending a CMA out. It's more than that. It is a conversation. It's an appointment to figure out what their long-term goals are with their finances. See, we deal with people that are buying a really large asset, but what a lot of agents don't think about is that for a lot of people, this is a financial asset for them in the future, not just a home that they're living in. They're looking at the equity, they're looking at future investment opportunities and things like that. So this will help them understand that you are at their side for all of their financial needs, especially ones that relate to housing. So you look at the equity, you look at the different things that they can do with it, and there's a whole bunch of different stuff. I'll do a video on this later, but we basically go over every possibility with their home so that they can maximize their finances in the future utilizing their home. And this helps dig out potential future investors. I've had a lot of people sit at my portfolio review that wanted to invest in real estate and they didn't know how, and they had never mentioned it before, so I didn't really know. And then all of a sudden I do this portfolio review and I figured this out. I had one guy in particular, this is my favorite story to share with this, is I do my first year portfolio review, and he goes, Andrew, yeah, I want to buy more houses, I want to buy rentals, I want to do a whole bunch of different things. Like, what do I do? And so we came up with a plan based on his situation. They were VA, so they didn't have to put anything down. They basically bought and sold every year using their VA and leapfrog their loan. Or they didn't sell, I'm sorry. They just bought every year until he had 4 homes. He bought 4 homes in the period of 4 years as a 24 to 28-year-old. That was the period that he was buying property, and bought all 4 of these and then rented them out and then moved away, took all of the money that he had been saving from all of these and bought a furniture store with it after he got out of the military. And he does very, very good work now. I think he's got 3 of them now, last time I talked to him. And he used real estate as a tool to fuel his future. And had we not had that conversation, he told me, he was like, I don't think I would have done it. Like, I knew I wanted to, but I didn't know how to go forward, and it felt weird to ask you. So don't be afraid to make sure that you're reaching out for some of their future investment needs. And this one's a minor tip, but asking at each house that you show a buyer if that's the house for them. There's a cool tip that you can actually take both, house A and house B and go, hey, these are the 2 we looked at. Which one's your favorite? And they say, this one so far. Okay, cool. Then we mark through A. I do it with a big red marker and mark through it and slide it to the side so that they know it's off the table, because we're looking for the best house possible, not the second or third best house. And we keep doing that until we have it narrowed down and we go, okay, cool. House B seems to be the winner. Would you like to offer on this? And that's a great way to kind of segment it for them, because a lot of buyers have indecision. And remember, you're a salesperson first. I know, there's a lot of different things about real estate agents and what we do. And I used to think salesperson was a disgusting word. I'm like, no, I'm in it for customer service and all this stuff. No, we're salespeople. We're helping them through the process. And some people need that little push so that they don't have decision fatigue and they can make that decision in an accurate and timely manner and not lose out on the home that is the best fit for them. This next tip seems so minor, but is one of the most important things I was ever told, and that is telling them what the next step is at every conversation. This is not just buyers and sellers. This is pre-buyers and sellers. These are leads that you're talking to. These are your sphere of influence that you're talking to. Everybody should get a what is the next step. Hey, Mr. Buyer, thanks so much for setting a consultation with me. We're going to do the consultation, and then cool, we go in to do the consultation. When we're done with that, we say, okay, great. Now that we've got this done, here's what we're going to do. We're going to look at the multiple listing service. We're going to find the next best 5 homes. We're going to schedule them out, and we're going to go do showings. When you tell somebody what the next step is, no matter what phase they're in, they understand. There's no question mark. They don't have to think, is this person calling me back? When are they calling me back? What is the next thing that is happening? So through every portion of the process, whether they're a lead that is turning into a client, or whether they're a client going through the process, or even afterwards, I suggest you always tell them what is next. Hey, we just got the home inspection. Here's what's next. We're going to talk through this home inspection, and then we're going to figure out what things we want repaired, and then we're going to pass that to the seller. That's all you have to do from there. And then when the seller comes back with, hey, what they're going to do, you say, okay, great. Here are our options. We're going to do this or this. And then here is the next step after that, depending on which decision you make. This way, they're never in the dark, and they know that you have their back, and they're not going to question anything because you've been upfront and telling them what is next the entire time. There's no surprises. I personally don't like surprises during a transaction. Next tip is asking them for constructive feedback. If at any point you think something's going awry or even going well, ask them for feedback. Hey, am I doing everything right? Am I, is there anything, am I missing anything? Am I communicating with you enough? Don't sound needy about it, but ask them directly. Do you have any feedback for me? I like to do this once or twice throughout the entire transaction. And when you do this enough, you won't need to ask as much anymore, because you'll know what clients are looking for the most part. But it is still good to ask each individual client so that you can tailor the experience to what they find important. And this segues into the next tip very easily, and that's get reviews for your business. See, when you're asking for constructive feedback, if they say everything's great and amazing, you could say, hey, great, would you mind putting that in a review for me and putting it on Google or Zillow or my Facebook or my personalized website or wherever you get reviews from. Personally, we do most of ours through Google, and we've got hundreds of reviews at this point because this is something that we try to put in. Now, it's something I'm still working on my agents to do a little bit better, but it is a very good tactic, and it helps get those reviews. And those reviews provide social proof for your future clients, and that cannot be understated enough. The amount of times that people called us just from our reviews is insane. In fact, one of my agents right now is currently working a single family, a mother and a father, that have 5 properties they are buying and selling with us. One of them is their daughter, another one is their grandparents, and the other 3 is them. We're selling one and helping them buy 2, one investment and one primary, all from our Google reviews. That's it. They didn't find us. We have YouTube channels. We've got a bunch of marketing. We've got all these other things, but they didn't. They Googled best real estate agent in our area, and we popped up. So reviews are not to be understated. Client events. Client events are a great way to show appreciation to your clients, and it helps add in those extra touches throughout the year. When you're so busy with your business, you're not reaching out and loving on your people like you should. They're a great way to communicate with them, and if done properly, you may never have to reach out of the blue just to see what's up. You've always got a client event for them to show up to. Don't forget the milestones and put them in your CRM so you never have to forget them. So your CRM should be like your second brain. We like to put all of our milestones in there for our clients. Their kid goes to college, they get a dog, whatever milestones you can possibly think of, anniversaries, wedding anniversaries, they get a new relationship, any of those things, put those inside of your CRM so that you have talking points whenever you reach out to them. This is great for past clients with like purchase anniversaries and birth dates, but it's also good for your sphere of influence and anybody else you communicate with regularly. This will show that you care and move that relationship to the next level because you're always there to cheerlead them on. And that's something that we are missing as a society as a whole right now. Very rarely do we have people still in our corner cheerleading us on, so this is a great thing to add into your business, and it doesn't take much time. I alluded to this earlier, but the next tip is be the guy or gal for everything. Everything, not just housing related. Yes, you should be the person from the painters and handymen, lawnscape people and lawn people and whatever, electricians, plumbers, stuff. You should also be the guy for like, hey, you're looking for a new job? I know people. Hey, this, hey, that. And there's no real way to be that other than be in the industry, network with your vendors as much as possible, and just make as many connections as you can. For you high I personalities on the DISC test, you high I personalities, you do this naturally. For some of us that aren't high I's, we've got to do it in different ways and be a bit more intentional, but it's a great thing to add into your business so that when somebody needs anything, they go to you first because they know you're the guy or gal for that thing. When you're in the middle of a transaction, have a solution before you present the problem when possible. There are times where you need to present a problem that you don't have an answer to. And then at that point, you need to have different avenues. Hey, here are the best 3 choices we have. We could do this, we could do this, or we could do this. But most of the time, I find that if it's a small problem, I like to have an answer first before I present them with a problem. So for instance, let's say we have a title hiccup and there was a permit that wasn't pulled for something and it was caught. And now we need to fix it because the investor on the loan is saying, hey, I'm not going to give you the loan if we don't do this. Okay, great. Instead of going straight to the buyer and saying, hey, we've got this problem with this permit, you might not be able to purchase this home, and get them all wigged out and freaked out, even if we do that in a soft way, they're going to freak out on a certain level, right? But if we're able to hold that at bay and keep that from them until we find a solution, hey, the seller said they're going to go ahead and fix this. They've already called the person that did the work on that particular item, and they're getting the permit opened and closed again, so everything will be legit. Now when we present the problem, we're just letting them know, hey, this was something that came up. We've already fixed it. Here's how we're doing it, and then we can move on, and it causes a little bit less stress. The more stress your client has throughout the transaction, the worse they're going to think the deal was, even if you had nothing to do with it. We've all had those experiences where the other agent on the other side screwed something up and we look like buttholes because they screwed up and there's nothing we could do about it. We want to stop as much of that as possible, and this is a great way to do it. Next tip is that when somebody is wrong, when one of your clients is wrong on something, you don't go outright and say that they're wrong on something. You work at a different angle so that you can make sure that they understand that you're on their side. My favorite example of this is sellers who want to be there for home showings. Hey, I'd like to be there for every home showing so I can tell the potential buyer all about the home and the neighborhood and all this stuff. A bad example of this would be, hey, that's not how this works. I'm a top producing agent. This is a very bad way to do business, so let's not do that. That's going to make it a little bit combative, and now you're fighting with them. A better way is to go, hey, Mr. Seller, listen, I really appreciate that. You've got a lovely home, and nobody knows this home, and definitely not this neighborhood near as much as you do. But here's what I found. In my experience, when the seller is there, it makes the buyer a little bit uneasy, and it makes them switch into their logical brain of thinking instead of their emotional. See, buyers buy off of emotion, and then they justify it with logic. What we don't want to do is get in the middle of that emotion, because when you're there, they're now taking a home from somebody instead of buying a home for themselves. Does that make sense? Those kind of things will help you get what you know is in their best interest, but do it in a less combative way that they understand so that they're not hurting themselves. My next tip is don't make assumptions. Just because somebody's been in a situation before doesn't mean that they automatically know everything. Here's the example I'm going to use. A buyer that has purchased multiple homes before. Oh, hey, I've done multiple homes before. I don't need a buyer consultation. I just need you to show me those homes. Well, a lot of agents are going to Pop-Tart. That's what I call it. Pop-Tart. Oh, hey, my phone rang. You want to go see this? I'm going to go run out. And I'm not going to do a consultation. I'm not going to check to see if you're pre-approved. I'm going to waste a ton of time with you and have no idea what's going on. That is bad practice. Even if somebody has purchased multiple homes before, we should get used to them coming into the office so that we can discuss everything with them so that they know how we work and they know how this area works in this particular stamp of time. See, the transaction changes 1 year inside of real estate. Just think of how COVID was. 1 year before COVID, right after COVID. Prices went nuts. The entire way people were purchasing property changed. If we don't explain these things to them, and I know COVID was an anomaly or what have you, but the industry does change that much in a year. Your market changes that much in a year most of the time. So if we don't tell them this and we don't explain this to them, we're going to have a harder time, and then they're going to struggle with writing the offer, getting one accepted and all of this stuff, and we're going to have to continually fight with them, which is going to make the experience a little less good for them. This next one doesn't need to be said, but I'm going to have to say it anyway because I do see it all too often. Value your client's time in every aspect. Like, if you're doing showings, don't be late. Come on. Like, you're going to be late to your money-making activity like this. I get it. Sometimes we're busy. I get it. Sometimes traffic happens. I'm not saying like anomalies. I'm saying consistently being 5 to 10 minutes late. There are people out there, you might be one of them, might be listening going, well, I'm always late. People say I'm always late. You might be one of them that are always late to stuff. Leave earlier. What is the problem? Make sure you're valuing your client's time, because what happens is if you don't value your client's time and you're 10 minutes late to a showing, then they're not going to value your time either. Well, hey, so-and-so was late to our showing, so I don't need to respond in a timely manner, or I don't need to treat them with, I can treat them with the same kind of respect that they treated us. They're going to do it subconsciously, even if they don't mean to. My next tip is actually a core value here on my team, and I believe in it very strongly, and that is treating every client like they are your best and only client that you have. See, when we treat everybody like they are our only paycheck right now, or they're our only business to keep going forward, we treat them differently. We act differently with them. We're not staring at our phone. We're not texting in the middle of a showing or a consultation. We're not doing these things that is going to hurt the relationship. See, even just looking at your phone in the middle of a showing, if they happen to turn the corner right when you're like click and you're setting your phone in your pocket, they already know, subconsciously or consciously, that their interest is not on your top of mind because you get your mind on other things. Now, I get it that sometimes things happen or we need to answer quick text messages or whatever. I used to, when I was in sales, I used to keep a smartwatch on me so that I could glance at quick text messages just to make sure nothing was super important. And if there was something super important, I would just let them know, hey, I've got something that just came across my phone. I've got to jump on it, continue doing the showing. I'm going to step aside for 5 minutes, but no more than that, and I'll come right back to you. I just need to handle this. Like, if an emergency happens. But very few things should be an emergency enough that you step out of the room so that you can handle it. Most of that stuff can wait. If you can't wait to respond to a text message for 2 hours, you need more leverage in your business, which, by the way, I can help with through virtual assistants and stuff like that, but that's for a different topic. Active listening is my next tip for you. This is a skill set that comes naturally to a lot of people. Active listening is being actively engaged in what they're saying and not waiting for them to pause for you to respond. There are a lot of us that somebody says something and in our head we're like, ooh, I want to respond to that. I want to respond to that. Okay. I'm going to wait. They're done talking. And they get it blurted out. Like, we don't need to be doing that. Yes, sometimes they say something that you do need to correct or you do need to make a comment on, but you shouldn't be constantly thinking about that while they're talking. Let them get through their thought. Actively listen, nod your head, actually pay attention to what they're saying, because they might give you information that'll help you outside of that one comment that you want to make, especially if that comment doesn't add to the conversation or doesn't add to their goals. We want to be personable. We want to build rapport, don't get me wrong, but we don't want to do it in like a, ooh, me, give me that satisfaction, give me that, I want to tell you this comment so you'll laugh at it and stuff like that. Ultimately, they're here for one reason and one reason only, and that is to get their goals accomplished. This one's really minor, but if you are busy with showings and appointments, quite often I suggest you throw a voicemail on every morning. This used to be part of my morning routine. I started out at Keller Williams where they preach 3 hours of prospecting every morning. So every single morning I would start with that and with whatever the rest of my schedule looked like. So, hey, thank you for calling Andrew Armonger with the Emerald Group at LPT Realty. I'm right in the middle of appointments. I've got appointments until noon today, and then I've got another appointment from 3 to 4 p.m. So if you are calling me during those times, I will get back with you as quickly as I can. And then here's a secret. Make sure you put the date in the voicemail so I don't think it's just an old voicemail. Hey, it's April 15th, 2024. I generally start with that. Hey, thanks for reaching Andrew at LPT Realtor. It's April 15th, 2024, and then all those other things that I said. This way that they know that it is active and it's from that day and that you're giving the best experience possible to them, because now they know that you're going to reach them back. And then again, make sure that you actually reach out to them and you don't wait 3 days to reach out. I know we get busy, but try not to do that. On the same subject, I also create a reject call text. When your text comes up and it says, hey, do you not want to answer this right now? And it gives you a couple options. Hey, I'll call you back, whatever. I create one custom. I don't know if you guys could do this on Apple. I know there's like Apple Android wars, whatever. We have them in the office. It's kind of fun. But on Android, we can do it. And I basically just put a template on there that says something along the lines of, hey, I'm right in the middle of showings, or hey, I'm right in the middle of an appointment. Can I give you a call back in a few minutes? Or can I give you a call back in a couple hours? This way it's just automatic. Somebody calls me, I see it come up on my smartwatch or my phone, and I just click that button and I can be present with my people. And I would also suggest doing both of these things, the voicemail and the text, auto rejection text or whatever you call it. I would suggest doing these for your days off as well, so that if you take Sundays off, for instance, I know that's a popular day for folks, you've got pre-templated stuff that will say, hey, I'll give you a call back tomorrow. This one is one that is probably good to use for every situation, not just with your clients, like with your spouse too. Try to avoid using the word why. This is, it's just not a great word. Anytime we're asking why, it sounds accusatory. We're trying to get more information, but it always sounds accusatory. Hey, why do you think that your home is worth this much? Instead of, hey, what data do you have that shows that your home is worth this much? Right? This way it takes that like accusatory position off of the table and helps build rapport a little bit. Or I guess helps from hurting rapport a little bit. This one's more of a tip for working with sellers, but when trying to get a point across, try not to use you and try to use the market in most situations. So let's say for a price reduction, for instance, hey, I need to get a price reduction from this seller. It's clear they're not selling. It's in their best interest to lower the price so that they can get it moved. What an agent might say is something like this. Hey, listen, I think that we're overpriced. It's clear based on everything that I'm seeing that we need to lower the price. And although that's not a super bad approach, the better approach would say, hey, Mr. Seller, we've been on the market for 14 days now and we haven't gotten a single showing. Typically when I see this, it's indicative of we need to lower the price. Now, it's not me saying that it's the market. The market is rejecting our price. Or, hey, we've had 12 showings and nobody's given us an offer. That means people love getting into the house. Our pictures are great. Our advertising's great. We're getting people in, but then they get in and we're enough off on price that the buyers are not wanting to give us an offer. So the buyers are rejecting our price at this time. I think it's in our best interest, and the market is agreeing with me that we should drop our price. Like, that is a much better way than saying me, because then it's kind of combative again. They're seeing you as the enemy. You're the one saying they need to reduce the price. And if they have any sort of like hesitation towards you or what have you, they're going to be thinking, oh, well, he just wants a quick commission or something like that. And that's not what it's about. It's about getting them to their goal. If you screw up, own the screw up. Own it. Hey, I messed up. We went past our deadline here. I screwed up. Here's what I'm going to do to fix it. That is a much better solution than trying to lie and skeeve your way out of whatever problem that you may have produced. If you're in real estate, you're going to screw up. If you do this at a high level, I promise you're going to screw up. I've sold everything from, 11 homes per year at my lowest year to 64 homes per year at my highest year, just for me, not including team numbers. And it didn't matter if it was 11 or 64, I was screwing up. When I was less experienced, I screwed up more, per sale. I screwed up 10% of the time, because out of 11, I screwed up one. And I might only screw up 3 or 4 times at 64, but I still screwed up. Mistakes are going to happen. Own up to it when mistakes happen and try to come up with a solution that's good for all parties. And on the same subject, if you don't know the answer to something, also own that. Hey, listen, I don't know the answer to that, but I will find out by close of business today, by next week, by whatever is a reasonable amount of time for you to find an answer. This way they know that you're being upfront and honest. There's a lot of things we've got to deal with as real estate agents, and it's hard to keep up track of everything. We've got to be the marketers and the head of business and the salespeople, and we've got to turn leads and conversion and IT, and just I could keep going on. Like, real estate's, it's difficult. That's why we have an 87% failure rate in this industry. So it's not going to be that big of a deal if you don't know something. Your client might not know everything that goes into it, but you do, and that's all right. So if you don't know, just own up to it and then find the answer as quickly as possible. Which is a good segue into my next one. Keep your promises. If you tell somebody you're going to do it, do it. That's all there is to it. Put a note in your phone, put something in your CRM, put an alarm clock at the end of the day to go over all the things you told people, go through your text messages before you close out for the day, just something to make sure that when you tell somebody you're going to do it, you're going to do it. What happens is we get really busy. I can tell you this, at 60 plus sales, even at like 45 plus sales every single year, things start getting hard to track. Your organization needs to be good, and that's not a strong suit of mine. So I had to put things in place to make sure that I didn't forget things, like marking text messages unread when somebody sends something to me and I say, yeah, I'll send you that house by the end of the day, or yeah, let me schedule that showing for you tomorrow, what have you. I mark it unread so that at the end of the day I can go through all of that. I do the same with my emails. Like, there are little things that you can put in place to make sure that you don't forget the promises that you told people you were going to keep. My next tip before I get into one of the biggest tips that I have is set expectations early and often. If you don't work Sundays, tell that to them in the consultation. Let them know that on Saturday before you check out for the day, and do this for every single client. Setting expectations is so important, because what happens if you don't set expectations, let's say you don't work on Sundays, and Saturday you do some home showings with somebody, and Saturday night they say, hey, I'm going to reach out to you tomorrow. Maybe we'll put an offer on this house, but we don't know yet. And you don't tell them that you don't work on Sundays, and you just ignore them on Sunday when they submit a text message or an email to you and they say, yeah, we'd like to write an offer on this property. You're going to be in big trouble, especially if that house goes under contract. They're not going to be very happy with you. So you want to make sure you set expectations early, and then also say it often so that they realize that. If you don't work past 5, if you don't work past 7 p.m. every night, if you like to have dinner from 5 to 6 with your family and you don't have your phone on, like, set these expectations up. We like to do it in our buyer and seller consultations and make sure that they understand that and make sure that they are okay with it so that we can adjust if needed, or push them off to somebody else that is willing to do that thing that we're not going to. But that, I don't think that's ever actually happened, but that's kind of the idea behind it. One of the best tips I ever received is the last one I wanted to give to you guys, and that is, if your client is reaching out to you before you reach out to them more than one time in the transaction, unless you're friends and it's like friendly stuff, or they're getting friendly with you and it's more friendly stuff. I'm talking about for hiccups, for situations, for things happening. If they reach out to you more than you reach out to them, you're in the wrong. You're not communicating enough for them. Everybody's got a different cadence of communication that they need for them to feel comfortable with the situation. And some people are going to need more. A first-time home buyer that's nervous about this first transaction is going to need more communication than somebody that's buying their 15th home and they've got 37 rental investments as well. Like, they know what the heck they're doing. It's two different timelines. So try to do your best to make sure that if you see messages coming in from your client more often than you're reaching out to them, that you should probably step up your cadence of communication or have a conversation with them that, 59 texts per day is your limit back and forth or what have you. Now, you should never have to do that portion, but it really is just about that. So if somebody's constantly going to you, it's because they're nervous. It's because they need more communication than you're providing. And sellers are infamously bad about this, because sellers and buyers have two different mindsets. Buyers are home shopping. You can home shop on a Tuesday, or you can wait till Friday if it's raining, like home shoppers are in a different story. Unless they've got, some reason they have to be here by a certain time, they're not going to have as much urgency as a seller. A seller wakes up every single morning wondering why their home hasn't sold. Every morning. And when the days on market get higher, like they have been over the last year and a half of this industry, where at least in our market, we're sitting at like 60, 65 days in some markets and 15 days in other markets. But like those ones that are 60, 65 days, if we don't let them know and set expectations early and often, just kind of like what I just mentioned, and then we don't communicate with them often enough, they start hitting us up. I know we're not communicating enough. Every single time an agent comes to me and they go, well, so-and-so won't stop messaging me and they're bugging me and, oh God, they're so needy and all this other stuff. It's like, they're not needy. Like, they might be more needy than somebody else. Everybody's needy during this transaction. It's a big transaction. It's not that they're needy. It's that you're not communicating properly. To stop that, communicate with them early and communicate with them often. Communicate with them more than they're communicating with you until such time that they tell you to ease off. That's all there is to it. There are going to be some people that are like, hey, you're communicating too much. Like, you don't need to communicate with me every 2 days. Like, okay, cool. Then we can back off. There's a lot of people that think they can only communicate with their sellers, for instance, once a week or once every 2 weeks. I'll give you an update every 2 weeks. Other than that, don't worry about it. They need more than that because every time their eyes open in the morning, they're thinking about why their home hasn't sold. I hope these tips were helpful for great customer service. I promise you, if you put in even a fifth of the tips that I've given you today, your business will increase through repeat and referral business. I've seen it over and over again. As I mentioned, in my last year of selling, I was only communicating with 176 people personally in my sphere of influence, and all of my deals were from my sphere of influence or a referral from my sphere of influence and past clients. And that's it. And I sold 64 sides my last year, 54 the year before that, like rinse and repeat. These great customer service tips will help you in your business. I hope they were good for you. And one last thing, if you made it this far, because I know the video is about to end and it's getting to that little end right at the bottom. One more thing, if you found a tip that you really liked, please put it in the comment section down below. I'd love to chat with you guys. As you'll see, I respond to every single comment that I can find, even the trolly ones. I love talking to you guys. So put your favorite tip down below and I'll see you guys in the next one.